In this video, I'm going to break down 5 of my absolute favorite shoulder strengthening exercises for gymnasts to help them develop more skills on bars, vault, beam, pommel horse, high bar. Everything they're trying to do for the upper body is typically very, very important to get some strength before we start working skills. And now I'm going to share all of these things with you to hopefully help you give some exercises that will speed run you and get you really the most bang for your buck, so you're not wasting too much time doing tons and tons of extra fluff. Now, that said, before we move into the video here, we have 1 more week left to our giant giveaway that is coming next week. Okay, so next week on Friday, we will be randomly picking a winner. That person is going to win tickets to the 2023 Shift Symposium, but they are also going to win a free course of their choosing over anything that they want from Shift, from our power course, our flexibility course, our medical courses, whatever they would like. You're going to get 1 lucky winner who gets all of that stuff together, which is very exciting. It's a huge value, and I'm very, very pumped to finally draw that after many weeks of people watching the videos and contributing. If you want to enter in to get another spot, head down to the comment section, put in hashtag 24shift. We will go through all the videos and automatically put them in and then draw those names together. We'll announce that on your next week's video, and that is where you want to look out if you really want to find that. So make sure to drop down, put that comment hashtag 24shift in, and then that way you understand that you know everything you have to do is from every single video prior, right? So if you had a lot of entries, you probably have more opportunities to win there. Let's dive in. Okay, so the first thing that's kind of a staple in gymnastics that many people know about is going to be a rope climb. Now, what I think happens here is people do versions of rope climbs that are way too hard, particularly with really young athletes. And so if you have an athlete who just simply jumps up and tries to do a legless rope climb, they're probably going to be really swinging their body a lot. They're going to be doing a lot of compensation. So I personally like to start people from this version up here, which is seated, right? And just doing arm over arm pulls. This is very, very good for little ones to learn how to do things from a very early age without making sure their technique is too thrown off and that they're not swinging too much. So I like starting with this one here, and then over here, I like going to a tuck variation next. I think most people are trying to go right to a legless straddle L rope climb, and it gets very, very challenging. So this tuck variation is very good to do after we do this kind of seated variation for a little while. Ideally, the goal is to get to something with a straight body, to do something here like a legless straight body rope climb. And then the very, very hard version, which I think many people have seen before, is doing some sort of a pike rope climb. Now, obviously, this is extremely difficult, right? So I honestly think that starting people here and on this version first are probably your best bets to go. If you've never done a rope climb before, that's the place to start right there, right? We have a little experience, you can go tucked. Once you get older, a little stronger, a little bit more developed, these can be very, very helpful as well. Now, variations on these, right? We want to go anywhere between a half to a full, right? So this one, it's probably going to be just about 5 steps worth up and down because that equivalates to about a half rope climb. But here we want to try to actually start to encourage someone to do a half rope climb up and a half rope climb down and try to maintain that kind of half up, half down until they feel really comfortable and safe to do the entire rope. So we're probably trying to do 2 to 3 sets here of some variation that we have. I like doing these about 3 to 4 days per week. And the common errors that we see over here is that one is it's too hard. Like I said, they go right for this version down here when they really should be doing pulls, right? Swinging, you can see that Heather's doing a really good job of maintaining really good body tension and body control. She's not flopping all over the place and swinging her body weight. And then you can't see it in this video, but a slow lower is commonly something that people don't have in their repertoire. They usually go up really fast. When they come down, though, they just fly down the rope and they don't worry about the control. That downward control piece is actually one of the most important pieces to work eccentric control of their arms. And now that's why it's so important to start with a half rope climb, because I don't want someone to get all the way up the rope, be completely gassed, and then have a safety issue coming down. So that's just something to keep in mind. So rope climbs or pull-up variations you can do too as well are really just my absolute staple that somebody has to be doing to get stronger, because this transfers over really, really well to swinging on bars and doing support swings on pommel horse and parallel bars, things like that. Okay, the second exercise that I really like here is going to be a tempo push-up. Okay, so I think that push-ups are, again, something a lot of people know about in the gymnastics community, but unfortunately people are doing not the best high quality push-ups I've ever seen in my life. Okay, so what we need to do is really focus on a few things. One, we want to really make sure that we're not holding our breath. We don't want any lower back arch here, okay, and we don't want our elbows to be flared out really, really wide. And you can see Linnea is doing a good job here. Her core is tucked in. She's got a nice upper back position. She's doing a very good job of tapping her chest, and her elbows are kind of coming out and back to the side, right? She's not going too wide up here, putting her hands up by her sides. She's just doing a very nice slow push-up. And I like this kind of 1 second to 2 second lower on the way up and the way back down. Ideally, sometimes I like to do a 3 second lower. So a nice 3 second lower and a 1 second push up. If someone needs some help on that, we can do here. We can do an eccentric down and then come back on the knee push-ups, and that might make it a little bit easier for someone to kind of work on that strength, work on that development. So this is a version where you can kind of give somebody to start and then eventually more them up here. The other thing I will say is that all the time the people doing them on the floor, sometimes the floor is a little bit too challenging. If you want to elevate someone's hands up more here, putting a box on the edge of the floor and having someone do a 45-degree push-up is a good way to start. I personally find that's a little bit more beneficial than just kind of ripping through, 10 to 12 push-ups where they're flopping all over the place and things are really, really hard. So that would be something I suggest, is try to go for a tempo pause push-up. Use this kind of decline descent if you need, but then also kind of angle them up on a box if that's a little bit more comfortable for them. So I like 3 to 4 sets of 6 to 12, kind of get a little bit of a tempo, a little bit of a pause together. 2 to 3 days per week is pretty good, and we kind of went through those errors already. All right, and then next year, press walks are another fantastic shoulder strengthening drill. Many of the things we're talking about here are general strength, so push-ups and handstands, but we also have to make sure we're developing the strength for gymnastic specific skills, okay? So press walks are one of the things I really like to do. So hands go down between your feet, and then you're gonna lift your body up using a weight shift, okay? So you're gonna have Heather, she's gonna lean her body over her hands, she's gonna press her shoulders up until she unweights her feet, and then slide her feet back a little bit more, okay? Then she moves her hands back in, leans her body weight over, and then again pushes all the way back. And what this is doing is 2 things. One is it's developing the deltoid strength to be able to actually hold this position, but 2 is it's developing the strength of balancing your feet off while your shoulders go over your hands. We need this weight shift of her shoulders being over her hands so she can unweight her feet. This is very important for cast handstands and for other handstand skills. So we want to learn the raw strength of the actual pressing motion itself, but we also want to understand how to get the strength to balance our body weight over our wrist, okay? So these are amazing to do. You can do 10 steps forward and 10 steps backwards with a nice slow 1-second tempo. I like doing these a couple days per week. And again, the errors we're going to see are jumping. Right? You see that she's doing a really good job unweighting and just pressing herself backwards. She's not jumping her feet up and moving them backwards. Okay, another one that she has to work on here a little bit is keeping the ears covered. You can see her head is poking out. We'd ideally like her head to be down, kind of looking at the floor with her eyes kind of up towards her thumbs. And then we want to make sure those knees don't bend at all, right? If someone has flexibility or core compression strength issues, they might have some issues with her knees going all the way back and forward. So these are also super duper good to do. Okay, then moving on here, another one I like here is going to be a tuck or a piked handstand push-up. Okay, so those straight arm movements we just showed are really, really good to kind of keep the elbows straight and work on things. We also need some raw strength just of our upper body to develop our strength overall in the shoulders, okay, triceps, deltoids, things like that. So starting here with a pike handstand push-up is really good, right? We're going to go head kind of all the way up and down, and then down here we're going to try to go over on the side to do a pike handstand push-up. Doing this person's helping them out with a spot just to make sure they feel okay. And then eventually the goal would be to do a 1-legged pike handstand push-up, which is pretty tough. You know, it's pretty tough to get all the way up to this variation. So again, back to the rope climb conversation is I want to make sure someone's successful. So we're going to start with a tuck pike handstand push-up and give them a spot. We would then move on to the pike handstand push-up with our hips stacked over our head. And then finally, we're trying to get all the way here to our pike and with 1-leg handstand push-up, okay? So these are very, very tough to do. So I think 6 to 8 reps is probably pretty good. 3 sets with a spot, and again, a couple times per week is probably pretty good. The common errors that we see that I just talked about again are we do a variation that's way too hard first, so the form kind of squiggles a little bit and their hips kind of come out and they're not really doing a full push-up. And then the second thing we see here is sometimes people put their head really far back behind their hands there. We want that head to be poking out in front of the hands, ideally in a triangle. Okay, so make sure that someone's actually using the right triceps and shoulder muscles. They're not kind of putting too much pressure on their shoulders. And then the last thing we see is someone is not really bracing their core, right? Their back arches quite a bit. They have quite a loose core and they're not really able to fully stack their weight over their head, and it causes quite a bit of a problem. So 6 to 8 reps is good. Try to do these a couple times per week. I really love these for young kids to do these tuck versions as well. But older athletes, if they can get a spot, it's really, really good to start getting a little bit harder. And then lastly, the one that I have here is actually a sneaky overlooked one, right? So everyone thinks about the craziest pull-ups, the craziest weighted push-ups, the craziest stuff like that for gymnastics, but I believe the most overlooked thing is going to be some upper back strengthening, okay? So these are feet elevated horizontal rows, and it's very, very common to see a program full of push-ups, handstands, rope climbs, all the things I just showed that are very, very important, and they completely miss out on the upper back being strengthened. And if they are doing some stuff, it's literally just with like yellow bands or green bands, and it's very, very easy or extremely light 1-pound dumbbells or 2-pound dumbbells for the shoulder blade exercises. I don't think that that's going to be enough to get somebody stronger. Okay, and the reason I say this is because when you think about handstands and back handsprings and hitting for beam impacts or swinging overhead on parallel bars and high bar, a lot of that strength comes from the upper back's ability to hold the shoulders open. So middle trap, lower trap, rhomboid, scaps, all that kind of stuff. That is really, really important to keep the shoulder angle open. So many gymnasts are very hypermobile or have range of motion, but they buckle when they do back handsprings. They buckle when they do vaults. They buckle when they try to hold a handstand. And a lot of this does come down to technique, but also working on really, really good upper back strength. So I like 8 to 12 reps here, 3 to 4 sets with a 1 second up and down a couple times per week. And I think the biggest things to look at is the hips dropping, right? You see Heather's got a really good open position here. She's squeezing her glutes. She doesn't have that fast up, fast down. She's doing a nice slow up and a nice slow down. Okay, and then sometimes for her, it might be too easy to do this variation. So we see an error of not having any progression here. So we want to put a weight actually on the chest to make this even a little bit harder, okay? So those are all some really good exercises, right? If you're someone working in gymnastics and you like this kind of stuff, you want to learn it for strength and conditioning, you want to see what programs I write and some of the best strength coaches in the world write, make sure to head on over to 2023 Shift Symposium to jump up for 30 lectures with 30 experts across 3 days. It's coming in a couple weeks here. It's going to be probably the biggest gymnastics event we have of the entire year. Last year, people were blown away. They loved the material. We give you everything in advance. You get all the recordings, all the handouts, everything that you possibly need to make sure you don't miss anything. But you do not want to miss this if you work in gymnastics anyway. Gymnastics medical care on the first day, gymnastics coaching on the second day, and gymnastics strength conditioning on the third day. So head over to www.shiftmovementscience.com/2023 Shift Symposium, and you can get tickets and sign up. But remember that we're still giving away one set of tickets for next week. So if you drop to the comment section, you put in #24shift, you will automatically be entered to win that giveaway that not only gives you Shift Symposium tickets, it also gives you a free course of your choosing: strength, conditioning, flexibility, medical care, whatever you want. So make sure to check it out, and thank you for listening to this video.